So, hi, Charlotte and Danny. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank
And
you, Paul.
we'd love to explore exactly what a director does. I mean, I can see it from my point of view when I work with directors, and I love watching you two because you seem to bounce off each other and bring an energy, certainly in front of the artists that I've seen. But what can you sort of tell us?
Yeah. Shar, do you wanna kick it off?
You go for it. You look excited to
Okay.
say something.
I think I feel so lucky to be in a duo, like one half of a directing team, because I think it's a lot of fun in that way. And I think taps into, Shar and I are so deeply collaborative that having someone to share that role with and constantly be vetting ideas, being able to kind of brainstorm out loud. We used to say, and it still very much applies, but when we were just getting started, we were like, it's kind of like having like a director's left and right brain communicating, but we
Yeah.
just do it out loud so you can hear. And but it's so much fun. I think, it's interesting to hear people that we've worked with, like you, Paul, which we've loved working with you and are working with you right now on a project. So it's so fun to be able to take a pause and be able to chat. But it's so interesting to hear other people reflect back at us because it's so, it feels very ambidextrous. Like it doesn't feel like we're right hand dominant, left hand dominant. It just feels like there's an effortless flow. And in many ways, we do have such a shared language and just such a shared instinct. And over the years we've spent, we've been directing together for almost a decade. We
Wow.
started our careers together and still going. And in so many ways, like all of these experiences we've had have built to the partnership we have now, in that it's very quick and instinctual. And like you said, it's a lot of bouncing off each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think to Danny's point about being really collaborative, one of the other things that we find is great about it is there's an accountability to it when you're working with another person that you really respect. And I think that it could be really easy as a director, as an artist, to sit inside of your own brain and then not really have anybody else who's checking you or who's able to
Yeah.
build upon your ideas. Of course, there's so many other collaborators that directors work with on set and off set, but there is so much that's also down to you generating ideas about things. And we find that the ideas get better when there's another person that you trust
Yep.
who's able to jump in and either take you down a peg or throw everything at the wall. And I think that we wind up with sort of a better outcome, we find, than if we were just sitting with our own thoughts because there's somebody else to kind of
And I
take you out of
suppose
your
it
brain.
helps kind of refine the vision. So you both have
Yeah.
an idea, a
Yeah.
concept of the script, and you both bring it together.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think there's something about having, at the end of the day, like we do have this like very shared one mind, one, vision that we're delivering and executing with our amazing teams. But I think also like we're making something for a larger audience. We're making something that hopefully will resonate with so many people. And so being able to have two sets of experiences and two like interpretations of something and being able to check constantly, like, okay, is this feeling this way for you, and is this feeling this way for you, to kind of make sure that there's a universal note that we're landing.
So you're trying to be, in a way, it's subjective, but you want an objective reaction.
Yeah, I think so. I think we want an objective access to a subjective experience, maybe. So it's like, like I think we want to have, I think we often speak to this as kind of separate from the duo thing, but we speak to like how important specificity is when
Hmm.
it comes to translating something. If you're trying to go too vague or too vanilla or too open-ended on something, sometimes it just doesn't land with as many people. Whereas actually, if you get really specific, like really referencing, your own childhood or your own like a
Yeah,
memory that feels very specific and sensory, that can translate actually in a greater way. Like more
sure.
people can hook into that kind of
So
specificity.
that's
So
almost like it's empathetic because you know the
Yeah.
yeah,
character, you've had experiences that the characters had.
yeah, well said, well said. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, being a duo, I also think it's so much fun because so much of being a director is problem solving and constantly catching whatever curveballs are thrown at you and then figuring out how to throw them back and being able to be nimble um, and being able to react. And I think being in the thick of it, you just are constantly dealing with these like unreal curveballs that come your way, as I was saying. But
Yeah,
I think being in a duo, you get to kind of laugh through it a little bit too. So like sometimes Shar and I will take a little director walk away from set for 2 seconds, just step away, look at each other and be like, this is insane. A little collection and then going
yeah,
back. And so I think having
nice.
someone else to do that with makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, or I suppose if somebody says something crazy, you want to get angry, the other one might calm you down a bit. Hang on.
We get to do good cop, bad cop sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And how important is, like, I was thinking of things like the DOP, um, casting agent. Do you try and use the same one or new ones all the time?
I think it really depends on the
Yeah.
need of the project as well as, the reality of people's availabilities.
Right.
I think that it's one of the things that we do love is that we get to collaborate with so many different people. And I think you're constantly learning from working with different DOPs. I think that everybody has a specific style or a
Yeah.
specific workflow or a way that they jump in and collaborate. And I think that for us, we've had so many different experiences because we come from the short form space of doing commercials and doing music
Yeah.
videos. So in a way, that was a really great opportunity for us to be able to work with so many different DPs over the years on these shorter projects and be able to work with people of a really high caliber who were in between longer projects and
Sure.
really be able to absorb and learn and see what different workflows work for us, which camera tools we liked using, which lenses we liked, which, types of operators really gel
Yeah.
with the style that we're going for. And I think that that's such an important collaboration with us. I think we're
Right.
both really visually minded and both have really strong ideas about the visuals, but I think
Mm.
that bringing in the other collaborators is always what makes the
Yeah.
work
And I
better.
suppose with experience, you can see who could help bring your vision to light.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, the greatest gift is learning from, someone new that you've never worked with before. I think like we feel so lucky in that, as Shar said, coming up in commercials, we were so, these quick, very high production value, very like well-funded commercials that had really high intensity expectation of like working with a brand, working with a client, like working with an agency, etc. I think being able to, it was almost like boot camp of working with incredible DPs and actually, I mean, everything, production designers, sound recordists, like
Yeah.
editors, every single member of the team. You're just like, it's boot camp, but with, incredibly experienced veteran team members, which is incredible.
Yeah, and when you mentioned casting directors, I think that's such an interesting other member of our, collective when it comes to making something who comes on so early and then is really able to help shape and craft how the piece comes together. And I think that we put so much trust into the people that we work with from a casting perspective because they have seen so many more auditions than we've ever seen. They've met so many more actors than we've ever met. And I think that they always have such a strong sense of being able to understand and interpret what you're looking for, but then being able to come in with a really strong opinion, which I think we really value. And I think that when we were casting our first film, we worked with amazing casting director Theo Park, and I remember her saying to us, always go with who you believe to be the better actor, and you can make everything else fall into place if you're not necessarily seeing them in the way that you were envisioning the role or feeling like, oh, maybe they won't have the connection with that character that I was really hoping for. She was like, just go with the better actor who could really take the direction from you, and you'll always be grateful. And I think she's so right. And I think it's just it's a role that I think often winds up being forgotten because so many things happen after that.
Mm.
I mean, in a more mass perception, but I think it's one of the most important
Sure.
roles that we work with is bringing all of those people together and crafting that cast of people that we work with, whether it's for a commercial, which we work with an amazing team in London, Lane Casting, whenever we're doing something out of London or Europe, who are so amazing at finding such interesting people who maybe are new or are
Yeah.
street cast or have more experience in acting role and being able to kind of shape and put those people in front of us. And I think that's such a huge part of the process.
Brilliant. And what about, so for the youngsters who fancy a bit of directing, um, big hopes, but be nice to give them a bit of positive inspiration. Any
Sure.
tips?
It's a really good question because I think there's so many, I mean, I guess this could be true for so many different, paths in film, but or in the industry in general. I think the in some ways it's just about like whatever resources you have at your disposal, whether it's just like, I don't know, this feels a little bit like lame advice, but my first thing is just like get out and start trying.
Yeah.
Get out and start trying to see what is your taste when the camera's in your hands. Like, what shots are you drawn to? What sort of stories are you excited about? What kind of framing on faces? It doesn't have to be, don't necessarily put the pressure on yourself to, go out and make your short film or your project, but just start shooting like a little collection, I think, of shots and see what excites you about your own skill set and see if you can start improving on things, like reviewing it and understanding it, and then going out and trying to do it a little bit better. I think is just, it's not like that's necessarily the seedling that will then bloom. There's so much else that I think Shar and I will both dig into about like the logistics of being a working director. I think that's something that gets overlooked a little bit of, just there's such a dream to directing,
Yeah.
but then there is such a reality to like getting into the business of it and starting to be able to pay your rent with directing and, being able to like get your first gig. Um, I think, we started in the space of like, right as we were starting to work together, finding like I remember reaching out to a lot of small businesses and saying like, hey, like, do you need any content? Like basically, first volunteering and saying, like, can I just shoot something for you to start building a reel? And I
Yeah.
think going to businesses first, maybe for me was right, and for Charlotte and I was right because we were going the commercial track. I think we were really excited about a lot of short form content that was being made. We became huge fans of like Eve McArdle and Kim Garrigan, these female commercial directors that we had,
Lena Matsukas as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so we were so excited about the short form and the cool, such a lame word, but like the cool work that was being done in the commercial space. So going that route also had this like really exciting reality of like, okay, starting to work with brands that you could, start to build a relationship with and then hopefully start to build budgets with and then hopefully start to be able to charge for your skills as you're getting better and you have this like, reel of work that can prove that like you can translate to content, especially
Mhm.
now that brands have, I feel like there's even a new craving for it that brands have to have content for their socials. So it's like, it's not just like you're trying to get in on a Super Bowl commercial, which you'd never, like that's a
Right.
hugely challenging realm. But anyway, Shar, I'm rambling. Go ahead.
I
Take it
would say, I
away.
mean, I think to Danny's point, like right now, there's such a craving for people who understand a young audience. And I think that if you're a young person, you can have a bigger understanding of that audience because you are that audience. And I think that, like Danny was saying, there's so much content out there. And then with that, that creates so much opportunity to make things. I mean, I think the fact that everybody or so many people have a phone that also doubles as a camera.
Yeah.
It's you have a camera at your disposal to be able to just make something. And I think that there's so many stylish ways that people can craft and create, and it doesn't need to be something that's really overwhelming that involves a ton of people. I think you're able to kind of make something if
Mhm.
there's a good idea or if there's a style you want to explore, a way of experimentation. And I think for us, we found that music videos was also a really great way. Like whether you're a kid at uni and there's a band that's playing, offer to make them a music video or
A good
find,
idea. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's what we did. We had a friend who was in a band and we reached out and we said, "Hey, do you have any music coming up? We would love to make a music video for you."
It's a fabulous
And
idea.
and I think that with that, work really begets more work. So through every project that you do, you learn something, whether it's a small short film or you go and find other people who are actors are always really wanting to work, especially aspiring actors or young actors, and being able to say, oh, hey, I have this idea for this short scene that we could do. And I think finding ways to get involved and just make and craft and do something, that is the only way that you're going to get better. It's the only way that other people are going to maybe see your work and you can start to actually gain more confidence because I think so much about it is having the confidence to feel capable and like you can do something. And I think that it doesn't necessarily, to be a director, you don't have to have gone to film school. You don't have to have studied all of these films. I think that you have to have a love and appreciation for storytelling and visuals and wanting to tell something. And I think that one of the biggest things with, especially with short films, which I think are so hard, and so many people will say, make a short film. You can make a 2-minute little thing on your phone that has a beginning, a middle, and an end and says something that's stronger than a 15-minute short film that costs 50,000 pounds. I think that there's such a, it's just really just about the story, I think, at the end of it. And then the visuals and all of these other layers are things that you learn as you get to make more and craft more.
And finding
Right.
out where you can put your passion, I suppose, and how
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
focus and filter it.
And I think another thing for us that like was a really good learning experience was after we made that first music video, we were lucky because our friends that we made the music video for, they were signed to a label. The label gave them a little bit of budget, so we were able to rent a great camera, but we went to everyone we knew to be scrappy to get deals to do this. And I think when you do reach out and you say, like, I'm a student or I'm a new director, I really want to build these relationships, it is amazing what people will give you back and offer you. And I think that one thing we found was, yeah, and I remember maybe it was our third music video, we'd met this woman who'd started this rental house that was one of the only female run, or might have been the only female run rental house. And she was like, I'm happy to give you a camera and a lens and lenses at no fee because let's work together. And I think that you will find that there's people who want to help you, but you have to get comfortable asking and reaching out to people who you think may never reply to you. And, we'd reached out to a DOP we'd loved work of on Vimeo and been like, we have this music video and it would be our dream for you to shoot it. And he wrote us back and was like, let's get on the phone. We didn't wind up
Yep.
doing it with him because it didn't work out. But even the fact that he wanted to talk to us on the phone and we had that call, or we
That's
reached out to an edit house and per a recommendation of another director friend, which I feel like we were always using resources of other people we knew that were directing that were ahead of us and reaching out and saying like, "Hey, we need to find an editor. Do you know anybody who edits?" And he said to us, reach out to a really great post house, tell them your budget and see if there's anybody there who would be interested to take on the project.
yeah.
And we did that, and we've done that with no budget, we've done that with some budget, and it's amazing how at those places, if somebody is not on a project or they're in between things, they are more than willing sometimes to help you with something
Yeah.
if they think that it's an interesting idea or vision. So I think that's something that I would always encourage young people to do is just reach out to people that you think will never reply to you because you'll be surprised who might reply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that was a perfect answer, Charlotte. I think, Paul, you can just edit out my first part of that, my warm up on that.
No
Just go
editing.
straight into that. No, genuinely. I think she just summed it up so well. It's like
Yeah, that's great.
is asking for like reaching out to collaborators, punch up with your collaborators. Like reach like if you're just you've got a few things under your belt, like punch up and like in terms of like reach out to people who you think wouldn't reply to your email or you
Absolutely.
think wouldn't have the time because
Uh,
then they might say like actually I can't do it like truly worst thing that can happen is A, they ignore you,
yeah.
which like oh well, and then or B, they say no and then like again oh well, they replied, that's great,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and they might even say
Exactly.
like hey, like I'm not available but like this person I'm mentoring who's really great, you should check them out and like you know
I
yeah,
also think it's important to keep going. I don't mean nag somebody and keep nagging them, but
right.
show your interest and keep showing your interest. Hey, I'm available if I can help. Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
totally
mean,
agree.
Danny also had a lot of experience working on set and working for a cinematographer. And I think that that's another way to, like, she had a whole other confidence that I didn't have from her even knowing the names of certain camera items
Right.
or just sort of the tech side of all of that set experience that she'd had and being able to witness other people doing jobs that's on set and understanding how a set works, I think is also a really valuable thing to seek access to.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I really cannot speak to it enough that I think like being on set as a young person, as a PA, as an intern, like is so crucial and is such a great way to like connect with people that are like your fellow PAs, your fellow interns are going to grow with you and they will find their passions as well and
That's
soon you'll be on set working together, you know, in ways that you couldn't even have imagined when you were, you know, like
mm.
21
Well,
and as Shar said, I was so lucky to come up under a cinematographer who then started directing as we started working together. And I was a camera intern, then I was a camera PA, and then I became her director's assistant. And I got to spend so much time with, again, like people were so much more experienced than I had to just learn, you know, how to roll with the crew and sound like I knew what I
yeah.
was talking about, you know. But I even up until when Charlotte and I got signed for commercials, we just made our first music video. We were making our second music video. And our first music video went, you know, didn't go viral per se, but it was being posted a lot on Instagram. And as soon as that happened, we started getting inquiries from commercial production representation, which was huge because 3 months earlier, we'd gone around and met with a few people, and they were like, "Best of luck, you'll get signed in 3 years." And so we'd made this music video, and we were getting some interest. And even while we were meeting with and we were maybe going to be signed, like I was PAing on music videos in LA, and I was on set and the company that was producing this Justin Timberlake music video I was PAing on was trying to sign us at the exact same time. And so it's like you're never too set experience will make you stand out as no matter what path you take, no matter if you become a production designer, if you become a producer, being able to like roll on set is such an asset, I
Yeah.
think.
And dealing with people, I think, is the critical thing.
Yeah. I think people don't talk about that enough when it comes to directing, that like leadership is the most important part of it, is being able to, you know, hold it down with a team and being able to like with positivity and being able to, you know, get to work and understanding how important it is that like everybody knows what they need to be doing and it can't just live up in your
And
head. I think, yeah, go ahead.
also, I've noticed you two are very good at, I'm not saying manipulating, that's the wrong word, but getting the best out of the actors and actresses, performance wise, and maybe giving them something they hadn't thought of. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In that given
Mhm.
situation, and let them go on from there.
Yeah, I think that in some ways, maybe because there's two of us as well, there's always kind of a fresh idea to
Yeah.
explore, especially like I think, you know, having you can get a little bit caught, especially when you're kind of like searching for something really specific, which we have been doing together with you, Paul, in the ADR booth, which is like you really need to thread a needle. Sometimes like really you get kind of like sucked up into the pressure of it. And so being able to break that fully with like a fresh, like huge pivot and then coming back to it, I find to be really helpful.
Mm, great. Well, I think you two have been fantastic. And
Oh, thank you, Paul.
I'd love to, I hope, if we may have another chat later on.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would
But
absolutely.
love that.
You just let
really
us know
appreciate it.
whatever you need.
All right, it's
Yeah.
been absolutely fantastic.
And
Thank you
we'll
so
be
much.
all together in the ADR booth for the
Oh, in
next
a
week.
week.
Yep, see
Yeah,
you
Yeah,
soon.
can't
great.
wait.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so much, Paul.
much.